Hello, very good evening to you. The world of Formula One has been stunned tonight after the verdict in the sports spying scandal. The sports governing body has announced in the last hour that McLaren, Lewis Hamilton's team, is to be fined $100 million and stripped of all its points in this year's Constructors' Championship.
June 2007, Woking, a little over 20 miles from central London. Trudy Coughlan walks into a photocopying shop. In her hand is a bundle of about 800 pages. She asks the photocopier to scan the documents onto 2 CDs. Nothing much about the order. On a closer look, the photocopier is beyond shocked. These are more than mere pages. They contain critical information that's enough to design a winning Formula One race car. On every page of the bundle is an emblazonment of one of the most popular logos in Formula One, the prancing Ferrari black horse. What the photocopier's just stumbled on is a scandal that would change Formula One forever. Stay tuned. Chapter 1. The background. During the 2007 Formula One season, McLaren debuted the McLaren MP422. To the naked eye, the car was similar to the one the team had raced with in the 2006 season. However, on the track it proved to be a beast. So good was the car that McLaren scored an impressive 110 points in the first half of 2007, as many as they'd scored during the entirety of 2006. Also, they enjoyed a lead in the championship from the start of the season until the Italian Grand Prix. Among other enhancements in the car, the low downforce package was deemed to be among the biggest factors that contributed to the massive success. However, despite McLaren seemingly developing a championship-winning car, they didn't win the championship, and no, it wasn't the driver's fault. Instead, a bigger problem cost the team the championship, a problem that would go on to change the sport forever. To understand what the problem really was, we need to go back to 1975, when Nigel Stepney began his racing career at 17 with Broadspeed's touring car team before joining Shadow F1. At Shadow, he built a connection with driver Elio De Angelis. This partnership led him to Lotus in 1980 as his chief mechanic. After De Angelis left, Stepney worked with Ayrton Senna's team until moving to Benetton in 1988. By 1993, Stepney joined Ferrari, eventually rising to team coordinator. Known for his meticulous work, he played a key role in Ferrari's reliability and success alongside Michael Schumacher, helping secure numerous victories and championships from 2000 onwards. However, Stepney was a man with a bigger vision. At Ferrari, he was the head of F1 mechanics, and he took much of the credit for the team's impressive performances that saw it clinch 5 consecutive world championships from 2000 to 2004. In addition to that, he was hailed for his role in whipping Ferrari into order. When he joined in 1993, the team was in disarray, the pit stops were disorganised and teamwork was more of a vocabulary. Collaborating with the then technical director Ross Brawn, Stepney worked tirelessly to ensure that the team had structure and discipline. All was good until 2006, when the seeds of what would later become one of the biggest scandals in Formula One history were sowed. The somewhat perfect Ferrari team started falling apart bit by bit. It started with the shocking announcement by Schumacher that he would retire at the end of the season. It was as if a perfectly stacked Jenga game had lost one of the main blocks and was quickly crumbling. Things got worse when Brawn also announced that he was going on sabbatical. The question that lingered on the minds of many people was, would there be anyone fit enough to fit into the shoes of the highly respected Ross Brawn? While everyone was yearning to see who would be picked as his replacement, Stepney already had the most suitable candidate in mind, and that was none other than himself. The thing is, he'd been Brawn's right-hand man and was so close with Schumacher. Surely, Ferrari had 2 options here: pick him or pick him. However, much to Stepney's shock, Ferrari overlooked him and promoted one Mario Almondo from Human Resources to Technical Director. What Stepney failed to consider all this time that he was just a mere mechanic with no college degree. In fact, he'd often jokingly referred to himself as a glorified chief mechanic. On the other hand, Almondo had previously served as the company's head of industrial development in racing. Stepney, in denial of Almondo's abilities, did not rank him at all, and he soon started showing his frustrations openly. In one interview, he expressed his dissatisfaction when he said, "I'm looking at spending a year away from Ferrari. I'm not currently happy with the team. I really want to move forward with my career, and that's something that's not happening right now." His statement didn't sit well with many people at Ferrari, and this pushed him to more extremes. First, he was caught attempting to sabotage the team's F1 cars by slipping powder into the petrol tank to alter performance. Stepney would go on to deny all these, claiming to be the victim of a dirty tricks campaign by the company for his earlier statement. And then a few weeks later, Ferrari would come to the shocking realization that the scandal they'd unearthed involving Stepney was nothing compared to what they were about to find. One morning, as then Ferrari Formula One sporting director Stefano Domenicali was going through his emails, he opened one That shocked him to the core. It was from a Formula 1 fan in Woking, in northwest Surrey. The fan told of a woman that had come to his photocopying shop with a stack of what appeared to be top-secret documents from Ferrari. Domenicali knew this was way beyond him. He forwarded the information to Ferrari security. Ferrari filed a civil lawsuit which paved the way for a raid of Stepney's home by the police. During the raid, a laptop and other items that would help in the investigations were seized. On analysis, the investigating team found that at one point, Stepney had printed out 780 pages that contained enough information for designing, engineering, building, checking, testing, developing, and running a Formula 1 car. But the revelations that came next were most shocking of all. It was soon proven that aside from stealing top-secret documents from Ferrari, Stepney had gone ahead and leaked them to one of the team's biggest rivals, McLaren. Coincidentally, these revelations came during a time in the season where McLaren were dominating. But why would Stepney choose to leak the documents to McLaren of all the teams in the championship? Well, to answer that, let's go back to 2002. Then, McLaren, under the leadership of its chief executive Ron Dennis, hired one Michael Coughlan. Coughlan would go on to hold the position of chief designer at the team for half a decade. And as it turned out, Coughlan and Stepney were old friends, having worked together since the 1980s at Lotus, Benetton, and then at Ferrari, before Coughlan quit to pursue other ventures. So it came naturally to Stepney to confide in his friend when he felt betrayed by Ferrari. Coughlan sensed the frustration in Stepney and capitalised on that, pressing for much information as he could. And Stepney did not disappoint. He gave them so much information, including evidence. It's one of the pieces of evidence that Stepney gave Coughlan that ended up at the photocopy shop. This was after Coughlan instructed his wife to go and copy it into CDs and shred and burn the hard copy afterwards. After a series of meetings between Coughlan and Stepney and the subsequent stumbling of the top-secret documents by the photocopier, the scandal eventually came to light. The pressure of the scandal on both Ferrari and McLaren was on full display at that year's British Grand Prix in Silverstone in England. The race was won by Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen, while McLaren's drivers came in second and third. Despite leading the championship, McLaren's celebrations were largely overshadowed by the growing scandal. Shortly after, the FIA launched an investigation and even visited McLaren's headquarters. After the investigations, the FIA ruled that McLaren was in breach of the International Sporting Code. However, they reiterated that the leaked information was only limited to Coughlan and therefore did not penalise the team. Unsatisfied, Ferrari appealed to the Italian Motorsports Authority. Later, in a more damning revelation, it was revealed that indeed the leaked information had gone beyond Coughlan. In fact, it had gone as deep as McLaren's drivers. The verdict was then delivered, and it was harsh. McLaren was stripped of all Constructors' Championship points and forced to forfeit their lead. The team was also slapped with a $100 million fine and further scrutiny as officials inspected McLaren's 2008 cars to check for any Ferrari-derived designs. However, the team's drivers were spared and didn't lose any points. The already bad season for McLaren only got worse when they were beaten by Ferrari in the last race at the Brazil Grand Prix, with the Italian team winning the Drivers' Championship by one single point, condemning McLaren's Lewis Hamilton to second. So you might ask, what happened to the main characters of the scandal? Well, here's the scoop. Stepney was blacklisted by the FIA following his espionage case, which ended with a suspended prison sentence in Italy. He later died after being struck by a lorry in Kent. Of course, nothing in this video is intended to disrespect him, or his family, or his memory. Meanwhile, Coughlan joined Stefan GP, where he was involved in a failed bid for the F1 grid and later worked with Williams F1 and NASCAR teams Michael Waltrip Racing and Richard Childress Racing. On his side, Dennis stepped down as McLaren's boss in 2009 before briefly returning in 2014 for a failed Honda partnership. He then left the team in 2017, where he's remained largely out of the public eye since then. The FIA's response set a precedent for increased fines and harsher penalties for any future breaches involving data theft or espionage. This included the possibility of Constructors' Championship exclusion and further financial penalties beyond fines. Subscribe for more.